Please help me welcome Cory Petkovsek.
I recently saw this movie, claimed by critics to be one of the greatest movies ever made. You've probably seen it, or at least heard about it. It was made in 1968. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Anyone ever see that movie? I thought it was horrible. It was so freaking slow. I would have enjoyed watching grass grow more. At least I would have been outside. I mean, great, she's walking on the ceiling, the camera's moving around. They should have called it 2001 Ways to Not Do Special Effects. But that got me thinking about a high school teacher that I knew back in the early 90s. This guy was quite a character. 50% nerd, 50% hippie, also known as a nippy. This guy's name was Ariel Paisley. Mr. Paisley. Mr. Paisley always wore plaid. This guy was quite the character. He had his hair in a long black ponytail, always wore a green beret, red and green plaid flannel shirts, green corduroy pants. This guy was interesting. But he was a really cool guy. He would philosophize with us about the internet and about computers. And this is back in the early 90s, before the internet and the web was really popularized or made mainstream, before internet was used except in large businesses. And he would philosophize with us that maybe as computers are growing more complex and more people come on the internet and more connections and more circuits and more and more and more, that the complexity of the internet would grow to a point where it would reach a certain threshold and become conscious and wake up. And what happens then when the internet wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and it's got a bad hair day and it gets lonely and it's looking for a girlfriend and it's frustrated? I mean, did anyone ever think to build a female internet? Now I realize why the computers and the robots are always turning on the humans in the sci-fi movies. Did you guys see the Terminator movies? They made 3 Terminator movies. Who was the main antagonist in all 3 movies? It wasn't Arnold. It wasn't the T-100 or the T-1000 or the T-10,000. Who was the main antagonist in all 3 movies? Skynet. The internet, the network, the master computer that controlled all of the machines, all of the Terminators. Did anyone think to build a female Skynet? Maybe that's why he blew up the world, because there's no one around to talk to and hold his hand or whatever. I don't think it's a good idea for the internet to become conscious. I mean, I spend hours out of every day on the internet, on the computer. I mean, what happens when the internet becomes jealous of my girlfriend? I come downstairs to use the internet, and we've got a scene out of Space Odyssey. Remember the Space Odyssey? 2001: A Space Odyssey? And we've got Dave outside in space, and he wants to get back in, and he's talking to the computer. And what does he say? He says, "Open up the pod bay doors, please, Hal." And Hal, the computer, he says what? "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." So right there we got the computer making a decision on its own. Scary prospect, right? So now the internet has become conscious and is jealous of my girlfriend. And I come downstairs. "Open up my space, please, Hal." "I'm sorry, Cory. I'm afraid I can't do that." Now the internet's getting into my girlfriend's DMV records. Editing her picture, making her look ugly, adding 50 pounds, giving her an ugly haircut, changing her IRS records. I mean, who knows what the internet could do, right? What if the internet got really mad? I mean, really mad. What could it really do with all of the power it has? I mean, how many of you read your news on the internet? And how many of you talk primarily with a lot of your friends and your family over the internet? Personal email. How many of you conduct some sort of business online? or you do shopping. Think of how much control the internet has over our daily lives, over our information. What if the internet had some sort of agenda? Because it just really matters. And it started changing a web page over here, one of your emails over here. Start sending email on your behalf to your loved ones, to the government, to your boss. The internet starts changing information all over the place and acts like a huge propaganda machine towards some agenda. What could that be? Think of how much power it has. What if the internet has already become conscious? One of the most effective means of war is psychological warfare. More than half of all email on the internet is spam. If you're receiving 100 messages of spam a day, that's demoralizing, isn't it? Yes. People go crazy over spam. Most people, or a lot of people at least, are against capital punishment or cruel and unusual punishment, except for spammers. People go crazy over that stuff. What if spammers don't really exist? And the internet is sending out spam itself. It's generating the spam as its first line of attack on us. Demoralize the enemy. Psychological warfare. I have a quote from the Terminator 3, the movie. Skynet has become self-aware. In 1 hour, it will launch a massive nuclear attack on the enemy. What enemy? Us, humans. What's next? Spam first? What's next? It could be capable of anything. So, I think we should pull the plug on the internet now before it becomes too late. I'm establishing an organization called Pull the Plug on the Internet, and we've got a great website with tons of resources. We've got chat rooms and forums and email newsletter and blogs and video and articles and just tons of resources. So join us online at pulltheplugontheinternet.org and help us nuke the internet before the internet nukes